one of our favorites, DraftKings Sportsbook, the leaders. When we talk about sports books, when we talk about top rated apps, when you're talking about safe, secure, reliable payment, when you're talking about just same game parlays, futures, in terms of bets, wagers, stuff like that, man, it's just a lot that you can really, deep dive into and make some compensation off of, or at least have the opportunity to make some compensation off of. But then on top of that, with DraftKings, they do got an awesome promo code going on, man. When you first download that app, because, some people out there, they've never done this before, Deke. It's their first time. You remember your first time.
Yep.
We all remember our first time. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so good. But either way, when it's your first time on DraftKings, make sure you use the promo code MOATS. So when you make that first little $5 deposit, you're going to get a cool $200 right for you to use on the app, make some more potential money. Okay. So shout out to DraftKings for that. But we also understand, Deke, that not everybody can have fun and control themselves. We understand, Deke, that not everybody knows how to turn it off once they take that first leap.
Discipline's a great skill to learn.
It is. It definitely is, man. And for some people, you'll see on the screen right now, it's a number that you could call or text, depending on where you're located at. For my New Yorkers out there, you see the text. But for everybody else, you know what you got to do. You got to call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, we got Tristan Love saying, Dan Orlovsky tweeted, you can't convince me the Steelers run more than 10 plays a game.
Mm-hmm.
Moats, from what you've seen on film, is this true? Hashtag Sabotage7.
Man, you gotta
We
think.
got my people in the house today,
You
man.
gotta
This is
understand,
great.
man. Dan is doing what Dan is supposed to do. Now, Dan does give you excellent analysis in terms of, breaking down plays and stuff like that. And when he says the 10 plays, it's more so tongue-in-cheek. It's like, yeah, it looks really repetitive. Because when you're talking about the route combinations, right? For our receivers, what are the routes they're running? Vertical stops, deep in, deep out, right? Not a lot of double moves, not a lot of,
Need some drag routes and
yeah,
shit.
it's not a lot of complexity with it. But in all seriousness, when you think about just wide receiver routes, how many routes can you really run? But 10, 12, realistically, right? Before we start just drawing it up in the dirt and saying, hey, man, spin over here and go back this way and back that way. It's like, it's only so much you could do anyways with that. But what he is referring to, and it is true in the sense that, yes, at times, the lack of adjustments, it makes this offense look very predictable. And when it looks predictable, it looks really mundane. It looks jet sweep. We're going jet sweep right or left. All right. It looks toss. We're going to run toss right or left. We're going to
Run it to the right. Run it to the
We're going
left.
to run the double. We're going to run the power. When Derek Watt comes on the field, we're going to pick up some yards because we're going to actually go 21 personnel, run it. That was a couple of the positive runs we had yesterday. We brought them out there. But we're not going to see a lot of that. When we want to dial up or we want to take a shot, we're literally sending our two outside guys vertical. We're not
on a PA boot or something.
It's no deep crossers. We don't do deep crosses. We don't do scissors concepts. We don't do a lot of high-low concepts either. So, I mean, yes, technically he is right, but no, he's not technically right because it's more than 10 plays, but that's what he was alluding to. And that
Just
goes
the
back to
same
what we
style of
said.
plays.
Right, but that goes back to what we said about the adjustments, how fast he can make them. Because when he does make them, they look good. When he doesn't, it looks really, really repetitive. really, really repetitive. And like I said, for him, man, you can't necessarily give him the benefit of the doubt exclusively because he hasn't shown by himself just yet that he is capable of this. It's only his second year as a coordinator, man. So hopefully for him, he picks it up sooner rather than later because in the NFL, man, we don't wait. You know what that means. You see it. They gonna move on, man. All right. So hopefully for him, he can get that thing figured out.
It just doesn't sound too hopeful, though.
But
in terms of Canada and getting some new plays, getting some more creativity in there.
When I think of hopefulness, I just think
like, don't we want to have more in the bag than certain routes?
I look at that whole hopeful thing as expectations. And when you think of the people that have turned on Kenny Pickett, it's part of the expectations. When the conversation around him is he's going to come in and be perfect, elite, man, upgrade, everything is right, man. You get him out here, we're undefeated. And then he comes out and it's like, oh, he's not perfect. He does struggle a little bit. Everybody does what? Man, they just react, right? They kind of lose it. I do think in a sense that is, what we do with him as well.
We expected more.
Just in the sense that
I did too.
Yeah, we did.
But
yeah.
this goes back to the Tomlin
But the
thing,
expectations
though. Like,
matter.
Why did we hire him
Yeah.
from the start?
I'm with you on that. But when
know?
you have an expectation that a guy is supposed to be here, and now when you see him and he's not, it makes you start to ask, like, yo, what's going on? But the difference between Canada versus Kenny is one's a first round draft pick who you bring in with the thought process of long-term answer, 4-year minimum, right? With Mad Canada, it's not, dude, this is a year-to-year situation. So you have to prove yours a lot faster than Kenny has to prove his. Now, we still want
Rightfully
Kenny to
so.
prove it, but they'll get rid of a coach way before they get rid of a player. That's just how the league works. So for him, the pressure is on him to pick it up. But I think the expectations do matter. When we set an expectation that our offense can do this, that Canada should be able to do this and this and this, and it's like, well, who set that expectation? Like, why do we have the expectation? When has he shown that? But that's part of the thing with Kenny as well, where it's like, we will pick and choose why we want to believe and things like that. But the expectations, I do feel, weigh heavily in terms of why we feel how we feel after the fact.
It goes back to the hire, though, because if we're talking about the standard is the standard, I just don't feel like that's good enough of a hire then to be the standard of having a college coordinator come in that we don't even know if he was that successful in college.
And that is very legitimate. When we talk about legitimate, like, I'm with you on that. But
especially in Ben's last year.
Correct.
Ben Roethlisberger's the quarterback. Different if you have a mobile quarterback.
Absolutely.
Ben Roethlisberger's final season.
Like,
that goes back to the sabotage.
It looked like
they
started to transition before they were fully turning over the roster. So that is a part of it. And yes, man, to fault that decision 100%, man. We could talk about it and pick and choose, like, why was he the hire versus some of the other candidates and things like that. Unfortunately, we can't change that, though.
No, I think that's just one of the hiccups on Tomlin's resume right now. It's not. I'm not jumping off the ledge of saying fire Tom. I just think that was a really bad decision. It was a bad call.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not to make excuses, but it's not like you don't just get to this point overnight. It's, you look at what happened here. Why did that decision get made in the first place? And then after that,
Maryland
why did
connection.
you?
Something like that, right?
Hey, man,
right?
this is good.
Had to have been
something. It's got to be something, bro. I don't know what it is. It's got to be something, though, bro. Yeah, because
he had a Pittsburgh connection too.
True. But
the coordinator here.
Yeah. But at the time, like I said, man, it's plenty that we can question.
Maybe Matt Canada's the best salesman of all time, and he was out to eat with Tomlin and really pitched him on this new innovative college offense for the pros.
So part of that, but I also think in the context of, if you're Coach Tomlin, would you rather bring in somebody that's proven and you get to have no say-so on what they do, no say-so on how well they are or how not good they are, right? Kind of like what he had with Dick LeBeau and with Todd Haley. Or do you want to have a situation where you kind of take that guy that is unproven, and you give him a chance with the hope that it does pay off, right? And now you're looked at as, hey, man, this guy discovered him. And we hear that how many times? Oh, this guy's under this guy's coaching tree. Nobody knew who any of these coaches were until they got up under there and they started to have success elsewhere. So I partly think of that also. I'm like,
I guess the problem is Tom was a defensive coach, though, right?
But he started out playing wide receiver. That's the other thing. So it's like I can understand, if that was kind of the approach, because you've heard him talk about it. When they say, hey, how involved are you in the offense? He says, I am heavily involved. Yeah. I'm involved. So it's not like he's hiding from it. He is letting you know, I am heavily involved. I am a part of all these decisions. So with that, I just asked myself at that time, were you making this move so you could say that? Because when it was Todd Haley here, man, we all knew, bro, this ain't Coach Tomlin offense. This is Todd Haley's offense, man. In the discussion, when it was Randy Fichtner, we said, well, that's been offense. We get it. But now it's like, man, he legitimately gets to have his hand on this offense. He gets a chance to have that type of input to a certain extent. Now, we don't know the full level of it, but based on what he has told us publicly in the media, that he is involved. So I do think...
And then that's a legit criticism.
Absolutely.
On him thus far,
yeah, because if that's the case,
years.
then it was like, hey, man, maybe you didn't, get it right with Canada, or maybe you're not as sharp as you think you are, in the sense of, I could take a guy who's not as qualified and develop him. Maybe that was the era. And if that's the case, well, yeah, man, we could point to that. But I guess, just long story short, I can just see why he could have went this route versus a more proven guy, knowing, kind of that backstory and stuff like that.